you hear me? Yeah. Okay. Highly esteemed audience, my dear members of the Orders of Metal Society of America, dear collectors and colleagues. First of all, I would like to thank Chris Cawthon, E.J. Fischer, and you, Andreas Schulzing, on invitation to speak here about German-inspired fakes and copies of insignia, orders, and medals. Now, there may arise some questions during the speech. I would ask you, please, to hold them until the end, because I have to read that I do not walk around in felleristics and never come to an end. I would like to present you today an overview of what I call the system or scene on the existing fakes and copies of orders insignia inspired by actors of the German market, thus concerning German and foreign insignia offered there and all over the world. As a matter of fact, this is unfortunately not the place to give you detailed information on the subject, on all the pieces of which I know that there are fakes existing. But I would like to give you, the present audience, some important and general information, and as a matter of fact, the subject of orders and of chivalry, decorations and medals of the German Reich from 1933 until 1945, the so-called Third Reich, will be excluded, just due to the fact that this system is working completely and complexly different, and the actors mostly have been and are completely different persons. I hope that you will understand that for juridical reasons I can't tell you the names of the acting persons involved, even if they have already died some years ago. Because the actors of the German market have their ears everywhere, and they try to cause me huge juridical problems, even if I would tell something against them outside my own country. The so-called orders mafia is everywhere, and only the auction house of Könkers, here Mr. Fritz Rudolf Könker, and some other supporters are protecting me from having to react all day to lawyers' letters. Here you can see Mr. Ulrich Könker. I would like to point out that my following explanations, statements, and opinions are fully covered by the first article of the Bill of Rights of the First Amendment of 25th of September 1789 of the Constitution of the United States of America, as well as by Article 5 of the Basic Law of the Federal Republic of Germany of 8th May of 1949. This sounds dramatically, I know, but unfortunately I have to state that due to juridical reasons. Parts of my lecture here have been held in October last year during a numismatic symposium, technological research on the field of numismatics, thus also dealing with the problems in the recognition of fakes organized by Mr. Mikhail Borisovich Azvarishchich from the State Historical Museum in St. Petersburg. This lecture was focused on older German-inspired fakes of insignia, among others of Russia, orders of chivalry. As I think most of you will not know who I am, therefore, I would like to give you some initial details on myself. Born 1961, I studied Catholic theology in Freiburg, in Germany, and in Rome. From childhood on, I collected medals, and for more than 30 years I'm working as a dealer of worldwide orders of chivalry, decorations and medals, as well as of worldwide reference book on this subject. Since about 1983, I am also acting as an expert on this subject for auction houses, state authorities, museums and private persons, and since January 1994 I have the official state permission to act also as an auctioneer. Since 1999 I'm working as also mainly as an independent expert for the numismatic auction house of Fritz Rudolf Künke in Osnabrück, today the largest numismatic auction house in the whole of Europe. At the moment, I am working for 7 different auction houses in Germany and in Switzerland. And as an author, I published since 1988 numerous folloristic articles in German, French, English, Estonian and Russian language in many journals, as well as numerous entire and partial auction catalogs. I'm very proud to say that my reference library consists of about 10,000 books and publications and about 15,000 digital publications worldwide on orders of chivalry, decorations and medals, thus being one of the largest reference library on this subject in the world. As a member of numerous societies, as well to the OMSA, I'm also collecting all their publications. I'm very proud that from the OMSA news I have since the very first number. The second fact on which I'm very proud is that I hope that you won't misunderstand this, that until today, and I hope with God's help this will last on, until today I was never forced to withdraw only one of the expertises or expert opinions that I gave out since the late 1980s. This allows me to give you at least some information on how I am doing my job. To take up the final decision if a certain object might be an original one or not, or a later production, or a contemporarily produced second piece, or even a fake, is standing at the end of intense scientific examination and investigations, more or less extensive research. Such a decision never, and I would like to repeat, never can be based on feelings, on impressions, or something like that. The decision, due to the high responsibility connected with it, is standing as a final result of a chain of evidence. And such, in a juridically applicable expertise or expert opinion, must definitively contain the arguments of the chain of evidence leading to the final decision, and has to do so in a language also the non-collector, the judges, would understand. Therefore, it may consist of numerous pages. Therefore, my dear audience, I really hope that you will understand that I cannot give here or during this convention any final decision whether a piece that you would present to me or bring to me from your collection, or that you have brought here, you intend to buy it. I cannot decide here if it is a fake or not, original or not. I can give you my opinion, my moment opinion, my feelings, but it can never be used as a final decision. That, due to my reasonable and scientific working method mentioned before, is absolutely not possible. I hope you may understand and accept that. On this subject, I would like to give you, at the end of this lecture some further information. In order to understand better the system of, or scene of fakes of the German market, it is necessary to have a short look on the German collectors scene and how many German collectors are collecting. In my opinion, Germany is the country of reference catalogs. In Germany we do not have only reference catalogs for coins, stamps, orders, decorations, medals, but also for pins and unofficial badges, comics, electronic phone cards, matchboxes, beer mats, beer bottles, and even for coffee cream jar lids, and so on, and so on, and so on. These catalogs are the Bible for the respective collectors, and so on. And without them, they feel completely helpless. As collectors, and in many cases, they unfortunately do not use any further reference literature. What is listed in the catalog, that is existing. And what is not mentioned there is denied to exist. Here you can see an exemplary page of a very advanced collector's reference catalog, marked with a hook for the pieces he already has in his collection, and setting a circle for the one piece that is lacking. And then, to this collector immediately would arise the question where to get the missing piece, especially when he's a well-situated man. Then he would ask all dealers for this missing piece, and then he would pay every price for receiving it. And when he finally gets it, it will give him greatest satisfaction to cancel the circle and to mark the number with a hook. In order to give you an example about the dominating direction in the thoughts of a German collector, let me tell you a short and true story that happened to me on the Gunzenhausen Medal Fair many years ago, when I still had a stand there offering my oldest decoration medals. Another collector was visiting my stand and asked me for a certain piece from Baden. I showed it to him, and it was really excellent condition. He asked me about the price, and I said to him, 150 marks. He took his Nimmergut catalog out of his bag, screwed it, and then he told me that he won't pay more than 110 marks. At my question, why? He told me that this is the price that is stated in the catalog. Then arose the question, in which I stated that this was an average price and my piece was in excellent condition. He replied that I am absolutely not allowed to ask more than 110 marks. And this is the price in the catalog. I asked him who said that. And he said, Jörg Nimmergut, the catalog's author. Then I told him to go to Mr. Nimmergut to buy the piece there. And he answered, yes, but he is not selling medals. I finished the discussion. Sorry, sir, that's your problem. And the guy went away shaking his head. You see, it's typical German. We always need someone who is commanding us. We need a leader, we need traffic lights everywhere to enable us to cross the street. Yes, we Germans need measures to which we can shift the responsibility for our own acting. My dear friends, many times I have been criticized for not talking very good about my own country and its inhabitants. But I assure you that I love my homeland. But for me as a scientist, and I consider myself to be one, it is necessary to research the reason for the facts I am observing. Therefore, in this case, I wanted to demonstrate you the menace of the basic market on which and for which the fakes originally have been made. Let's now start with a very first group of fakes concerning breast stars of the Order of St. Anna and the Order of St. Stanislas of Russia. Here you can see how initially the system worked. In what follows, you can see breast stars of these two orders that were offered and sold in the auction 147 of Frankfurter Münzhandlung in Frankfurt, a subsidiary of the Union Bank of Switzerland, held from 2nd to 4th September in 1996. The pieces had been offered, described correctly by myself as original breast star, manipulated by adding new manufactured parts. Such breast stars first appeared in the market already in the late 1970s, early 1980s, when a hype of insignia of Imperial Russia orders was still standing in the stars. They consisted of original breast stars without any additions, which in Germany and in France were to be obtained at quite low prices. To which then cast crowns, non-Christian centers, crossed swords, and swords above the center were added. Manufactured probably by a Spanish orders manufacturer. They were produced by order of a highly intelligent German dealer. All over his life, a world traveler, who for some years now longer dwells among the living, and who was the inspirer and developer of this industry of manipulations and fakes that create so many problems until today. In the following, this person will just be called the initiator. Again, I would like to point out that all these additional parts were made in cast, carefully worked out, reworked, refined, and applied to all kinds of original breast stars. And absolutely none of the many contradictions of the type of stars and its mark was noticed. You may know that at that time, a long time before, my dear friend Professor Dr. Gustav Tammann, who has passed away, also a member of this society, has passed away in January of this year, had published his booklet on hallmarks on Russian orders and insignia. No one in the German market, work of orders, of chivalry, had any knowledge about the Russian hallmarks. Not even the initiator. Never mind the manufacturer of these editions. German collectors, even today, like military editions much more than civil ones. Therefore, pieces with imperial crowns or such with non-Christian centers were selling better than civil ones. And crossed swords were selling better than crossed ones. And surmounting swords were even selling better than normal crossed ones. Even And with combinations of all these, one could really make good money, even if such combinations were pure fantasy products and absolutely ridiculous for any expert. But such pieces were just in and sexy for German collectors like a peanut girl. By the way, all 10 breast stars offered in this auction had been bought by a Russian coin dealer in Munich who offered them for years as extremely rare pieces, but they remained for a very, very, very long time in the windows of his shop in Munich. This kind of manipulation of original breast stars and badges with additional fake parts, in most cases commissioned by the initiator, could, since the late 1980s, and can still be observed in large width with insignia of many German countries until 1980. Especially in Prussia, due to its really highly complicated and sophisticated system of awards, but also orders insignia from Baden, Bavaria, here even the removing of crosswords, Brunswick, Hesse-Darmstadt, Hohenzollern, Oldenburg, Reuss, Saxony, Saxe-Weimar, the Saxon Ernestine duchies, and Württemberg with such addition can be found. And due to the fact that the basic breast star or badge is an original piece, on the very first view it's quite difficult to recognize such pieces as what they are. Manipulated originals and therefore fakes. The second group of fakes, which is by far the largest of which pieces have been made that appear in the market and that today are more and more the subjects of legal disputes, is the group of entirely new manufactured pieces. The initiator is the same as in the above group before. And also there, the first appearance of such pieces on the market can be noted in the late 1970s, early 1980s. In this case, the initiator chose a very strategic way for choosing what could be produced in the future. Based on the market prices of the ending 1970s, early 1980s, he chose all pieces that would bring a good price and which are easy to produce, as their construction is not very complicated. Therefore, for example, the Grand Cross, Commanders and Knight Cross badges of the Order of Henry the Lion of Brunswick never have been produced as entire copies. There exist only manipulations of such crosses that belong to the first group I was telling before. Their construction was just too complicated and too expensive. But evidently, of the color, of all breast stars, of the first and of the fourth class, and of the officer's cross, there are existing fakes with and without screws. So fakes in this group are known of the orders of chivalry of Anhalt, Baden, Bavaria, Brunswick, Hanover, the three Hesse, Hohenzollern, Lippe and Schaumburg-Lippe, the two Mecklenburg, Nassau, Oldenburg, 2 Reuss, Saxony, Saxe-Weimar, the Saxon duchies, Schleswig-Holstein, the two Schwarzburg, Turnu-Taxis, Waldeck, Westphalia, and Württemberg. But also from Imperial Austria, Great Britain, here only the Order of the Thistle, Iceland is particularly interesting because the center does not show a falcon, but a dove. Is it correct? Katanga, Luxembourg, and Romania, among others, such fakes are known. And on what concerns decorations and medals of these states, there were also produced rare pieces such as decorations and medals for life-saving, for art and science, or rare military awards. The factory was at first here for sure the same Spanish firm that also is believed to have produced the manipulated breast size. But due to the fact that the Spanish economy had grown very much after the failed coup d'etat in 1981, also the manufacturing prices of such pieces grew up. And the initiator had to look for another manufacturer, and he found him in the official supplier of the Royal Nepalese orders in the industrial zone of Kathmandu in the Kingdom of Nepal, who produced for him for sure until the late 1990s. This leads to the fact that of several pieces are existing two kinds of fakes. The ones of higher quality, of Spanish production, and the Nepalese production in lower manufacturing quality. Therefore, it happened some years ago that the client for whom I was to prepare the collection for an auction showed me two commander crosses with swords of the royal household of Hohenzollern, stating, yes, that he knew that one of these of them was a fake, but the other one, due to its different and higher qualitative appearance, therefore, was an original piece. Unfortunately, I had to tell him that both pieces were fakes, one of Spanish and one of Nepalese manufacturing. You see, the bringer of the bad news is always him. Of course, he became very upset about this news, and later the Spanish piece was sold by another auctioneer as an original. This collector had paid about $1.5 million for fakes in his huge collection. But he did not hit a poor man, as his profession was that of an independent auditor who had bought all this collection for more than $2 million with black money. As you may see, here also lies one of the reasons why nearly no one ever took legal actions against the sellers of such pieces. Almost all of these big collections of high quality belonged or are belonging to well-situated persons, many times also of economic importance. But the greatest part of their collection had been paid with black money. And this is obvious that they couldn't take legal action against the seller, because on the one hand, they would have been asked how they have paid the piece and where the money had come from, and on the other hand, it would have been publicly known that they had become a victim of a simple fraud, which would not have been very beneficial to their high reputation as successful businessmen. Therefore, we know today only of very, very few trials in such matters. On what concerns the fakes of the insignia of the orders of chivalry of Spanish or Nepalese origin, it can clearly be said that they all were produced entirely in cast, or consist of cast parts soldered together, more or less Spanish, Nepalese, overworked and refined. Mostly all these pieces have been made with modern silver and or gold alloy, many times in the wrong fineness, which today can easily be discovered by modern technical means, for example by X-ray fluorescence spectroscopy. And on what concerns the animals of these pieces, there are clear evidences for the time when they are made. Old animal of original pieces consist of many kinds of components, such as lead, arsenic, antimony, among many, many others. Such ingredients were in particular necessary to increase the hardness of the respective animals, so that after the burning process they could be sanded and polished in order to remove animal waves and deepening. Due to the high toxicity of these recipes, with the beginning on the second half of the 20th century, they were changed. The animals therefore became much weaker, more and more on the basis of artificial resin, also in order to make the production much more cheaper. But these animals couldn't be sanded and polished in the same way like the old ones. And therefore, the superficial waves and deepenings on the surface remained, and they can easily be seen on all pieces when holding the object against the dialight. Everyone has the possibility to do so. The Spanish pieces were of better quality, but they're also easy to recognize, as there was used the typical translucent blue, red or green enamel that was typical for this manufacturer, but not used for the originals of these pieces. And also there, the modern technical means, for example, the mentioned X-ray fluorescence spectroscopy, help us to confirm all the previous assessments. When we now talk about the number of the produced fakes, I would like to present here general figures basing on my own estimation, extrapolated from the numbers of their appearance on the markets since the 1970s. Generally spoken, I would estimate that at least about 15 to 25 fake collars, for example of the Order of Henry the Lion, or of the Mecklenburg Order of the Crown of the Wends, or of the House Order of Oldenburg, or of the Romanian Order of Carol I have been produced, like for other ones too. The number of produced Grand Cross badges and stars, for example, would range about 50 to 150, depending on the public interested on the respective country. And about 100 to 300 commander crosses of decorations. As I already said, these are only cautious extrapolations basing on the numbers that appeared on the market. But how often these fake are shows a German trial some years ago concerning a press star of the House Order of the White Falcon of Saxe-Weimar, in which the court declared the obvious fake to be an original piece, as the accused seller could prove that this type was much more often to find on the market and that it therefore could not be a fake, that it had to be an original. German judges. Due to natural development, it is to be expected that in the coming years, a lot of collections of orders of chivalry, decorations and medals brought together in the 1970s, 80s and 90s will appear on the market, which more or less will be full of such modern fakes. The third group, and therefore unfortunately I do not have any illustrations, I would like to have a short look on, consists of excellently made fakes of orders insignia, mostly from the 18th or first quarter of the 19th century, or in some very rare cases also from later periods. It could be noticed that, for example, of the Electoral Palatinate Bavarian military honor decoration of the Cross of the Order of the Palatine Lion, such fakes are existing. Or of an entire collar of the Order of the Garter, wandering around on the worldwide market for many years. These pieces are of excellent workmanship, individually made. The first two at the most only in 5 pieces, probably commissioned by a person also not anymore among the living. From a supposed manufacturer, a still alive German with high handcrafting qualities. A highly interesting fact is that these pieces not only are made in cast, carefully worked over, and of gold coins of the time and region, but also using animals in the style of the time of the original pieces. And here, the traditional methods of uncovering such fakes are reaching their limits. Here only, the newly developed and highly sophisticated methods, such as to clarify at which definitive time the melting procedure took place, can help to come to definitive results. It has to do with the atomic bomb since 1945. I'm not a chemistry man, so I do not even understand. For me, it's important that it runs. The fourth and last group of problem pieces, smallest one, consists of a very small group of individual pieces stemming, as I know today, from one single collection. These pieces, like for example the Order of Merit First Class of Anhalt-Köthen, from the left to the right, reconstruction, original old photograph and fake. Or the necklace of the Bavarian Order of St. Elizabeth, left the copy, white, original one, reverse and reverse. Or the cross of the members of honor of the chapter of the Order of St. Joachim, left reconstruction, white old photo from an original piece, were commissioned by the respective collector himself as collector's copies of unique pieces absolutely not available on the market. You remember the hook. And intended for his own collection in order to complete the page of the catalogue. They were probably made by the same manufacturer as of the pieces of the third group. Because you see, every manufacturer has a handwriting. You can see from under the glass who is it the same way or not. The difference to the latter ones is that these copies have also been made in cast, but with modern gold and modern fire animals, but in the same complicated construction as the original pieces, basing on enlarged and detailed photographs of the original pieces from the respective museums. For good money, one can get everything in Germany. But unfortunately, these pieces were